All right, good morning, guys. Quick sound check. Let me know you can hear me. This thing is working. Sound check on 1, 2. Happy Monday, by the way. Good morning, Mike. What's going on, man? Hope you guys had a good weekend. It is August the 12th. Seems kind of crazy to think. Monday morning here, and the markets are not liking Monday morning either at this point. We got a gap down of about 0.6% across the board here. Nasdaq leading the charge here, down 0.66%, and the Russell, the strongest, kind of oddly enough there, down 0.52%, 0.51% there, kind of keeps shifting around. But there's a couple interesting things here with kind of where we're gapping with the move that we're seeing today, and we'll talk about that in a quick second. But overall, I think today's going to be, I think it's going to be fairly quiet, consistent type of action, as opposed to the kind of that like volatile action that we saw on Friday, where we'd end up with like 1 5-minute bar in the S&Ps that just for some reason drops 11.25 points for no reason. Nasdaq did the same thing and dropped 43 points in 5 minutes there. So I think we'll see some fairly methodical kind of easy, I don't want to say easy, but easier type of action, or more normal type of action here this morning. One of the things I'm looking at, Forex Factory calendar here to start off the morning with, and you can see we have absolutely no news announcements. There's federal budget balance here at 2 o'clock. Again, that's in yellow here, so nothing red on the day in terms of the U.S. markets and what we're going to be looking for there. And you can see we've got pretty much a relatively decent move here in the Forex markets overnight there. Some things up 0.42% and some things down 0.45% there. So overall, I don't think a bad morning here to kind of start off with for a Monday on the week. I did that write up this morning, so if you guys are in the Discord, go ahead and check that out. If you're not in the Discord, there's a link in the description below this video. And basically, it kind of walked through and talked through what I was looking for kind of on the day here, and gave out a Nadex trade idea in there as well. So let's run through that, at least for the S&Ps here, and then we'll talk about the Nasdaq as well. So for the S&Ps, we're going to be gapping down 29.03 here this morning. We got about 12 minutes to go before the bell. What I'm going to be watching for today, again, like I said, I think it's going to be a little bit more methodical, kind of easier action. And if it does what I think it will do today, what I think we'll do is we'll kind of retest this 29.01 level here right off the open. Again, that's not that far. 2 points here. A big prediction there coming out of me this morning. But what I think we'll end up doing is testing this 29.01 here. We might get a little bit of a pop from that first thing. I don't think it holds. And then from there, what I think is going to end up happening is we'll kind of come down. We'll trade through that 29.01 level, push our way down into 28.85. And if we can do that, one of two scenarios I think happens from there. Number one is we get a little bit of a bounce here, 28.85 back up into kind of 29.01 there. If we're able to manage that, then I think the day is pretty much over. We'll end up kind of basing out around 29.01, maybe go back towards highs a little bit, but most likely end up kind of somewhere around that $2,900 number for the day. If we come down and we trade 28.85 and we're not able to get that rally that we think we should out of 85 let's say it gets a 5 to 7 point reaction, maybe stays kind of under 28.92 or so there, then from that, I think on the next test and the third test, depending on how many tests it ends up taking down here for 28.85, I think that level ends up breaking there. And if that level can end up breaking, then we've got room all the way down here to 28.50. And as I mentioned in that morning write up there, we still have yet to test these overnight lows way down in here from last week. So we traded, kind of down here into this, 27.75 75 level down in here in the overnight session the other night. And the close of this move ends up being at 81.75s. So realistically, we have about 100 points that we could drop if 28.85 quarters does not want to hold. Now, again, we're going to be in this kind of interesting area here where we've got the weekly chart is trying to set up a buy setup here. It's only a 2-bar pullback, but we did end last week with a green bar. Opening print of last week, oddly enough, look where that lines up at. It's 28.85s here. So that's going to be a really interesting level to watch here for this week. The hourly chart level pulls for us from 28.85 quarters. So, no surprise that level is one tick off there. And then at the same time, the daily chart here, again, we're popping out of these lows from that, larger time frame kind of Dow divergence where Dow ended up testing through those lows, right? And we're going to be, popping up here into what is a daily sell setup that potentially is going to trigger today under 28.99s here off the open. And then that leads us into the hourly chart, which is, flip-flopping back and forth between a downtrend, trying to take an uptrend, trying to regain the downtrend, failing on the downtrend again, starting a new uptrend, and then maybe failing on the new uptrend again today under 29.01 quarters. So the hourly chart's flipping back and forth pretty much every other day here between an uptrend, downtrend at this point. And that's going to be kind of a consistent theme until these larger time frames, i.e. the weekly and the daily, can decide on their direction and whether or not we can actually get back down here towards these 27.75, 75s, which I do think we'll either see most likely this week or at some point into next week. I would be extremely surprised that we don't retest those levels and we end up going to, up through 3,000s prior to ever testing these levels. So we're in a good spot here. We've got, like I said, over 100 points worth of range to be able to get back down to those levels. What happens from those levels, I do not know just yet, or if we're even going to get down to those levels. But just something I'm kind of keeping in the back of my mind in terms of picking up some big swing positions here, or getting too caught up in some type of long position where we could in fact still see that big drop. And that could come, like, literally we could wake up one morning and S&Ps are down 50, 60, 70 points, and we just continue to push into that level on that day. Again, I don't know if that's going to happen tomorrow, Thursday. I'm not sure yet, but just keeping that in mind as well. So that's the game plan there for the S&Ps. Put out a couple Nadex trade ideas there as well for the day. Some 10 a.m. expirations, a little bit more aggressive, and some 4:15 p.m. expirations as well in that write-up. Again, those are not full-size trades here. It's a Monday morning. We're going to ease into things, and we're in this kind of trend transition zone. So that's like a 20% position. If you're taking both, you're only doing 10% of normal size in each one of those positions. And they're pretty limited to risk. The prices were $75 and north of there. So pretty decent little risk reward ratio on those trades, I believe. Moving over to the NASDAQ here. NASDAQ, I'm going to touch on it briefly. Pretty much same thing here. 76.0550s. We're going to be gapping 4 points away from that level if we were to open right now. Again, big prediction. I think those levels get tested here on the morning. We've got lows in place on the day for NASDAQ, 75.84s. NASDAQ has had a 126 point range so far in the overnight session. So down 51 points here. Again, it's leading the charge to the downside, down 0.68% at the moment. S&Ps and Dow kind of right behind at 0.62, 0.63. And what I'm thinking, same thing here. 76.05 quarter or 76.0550s breaks. We get these 75.61s down in here. I don't think that's going to be too out of the norm to get that. Again, if we can break those, we got a lot more room to drop. I don't see 74.6350s trading on the day. Again, I see kind of coming down, testing this level, and then kind of rallying back, hanging out around 7,600, and working through this kind of trend transition zone, if you will, this trend change on the day. If we get through 76, 80, 75s, though, for some reason, the upside, I think you can start looking at NASDAQ a little bit more aggressively on the day for long opportunities. That'll put, back to new highs on the day, 77.10s. That's a good 30 points higher from 76.80, 75s. And at that point, I think it makes good risk-reward ratio and good enough strength coming out of the NASDAQ to justify a trade over 76.80, 75s. Again, I don't see the same thing in the NASDAQ or in the S&Ps as I do the NASDAQ on that one. The one thing I do want to touch on here real quick with the Russell before we switch over to the morning, the MLT live trading, is Russell did not get, this is what I was talking about with Russell, it's the weakest in terms of where that's price gapping to in terms of the structure. It's strongest in terms of percentage change on the day, only down 0.52%. But the Russell here is gapping 1505 and change. That's clearing and going through, you know, this low that we had in place down here from last Friday, 1508.30s. And lows down here, 1502.10s are going to be that support level. We've traded 1500.70s so far in the overnight session. So Russell's actually, in fact, traded its support zone already. I don't know what that means just yet. I'm not entirely sure, but it has cracked through Friday's lows. It is the only market to do so. Is it going to be the leader, or is it just kind of an anomaly and it, you know, reverts back to normal today and ends up kind of rallying back up through those 1508s after a quick test of 1502.10s? Not entirely sure yet, but if you're watching the Russell in the day, keep an eye on 1502.10s on these tests to the downside. If that level breaks, if the S&Ps are breaking 29.01 quarters, if NASDAQ's breaking 76.05 50s, then long bets are off on the day, and we can continue to sell from there. So again, pretty easy day, I think. I want to let this kind of figure itself out, tell me what it wants to do. It's only Monday. I'm not trying to be super aggressive here on a Monday morning. We got plenty, 126 points worth of range so far on the day in the NASDAQ. If we only have 126 points worth of range on the whole entire week, I'll be extremely surprised. So again, not trying to rush anything. Want to let this market tell me what it wants to do. These trend change areas are where most people end up just kind of chopping themselves up. And that's what you want to try and avoid this week and let it kind of figure itself out, or at least for a day or two. Again, that's what I got for you guys so far this morning. Thank you guys so much for coming on and hanging out and listening in. I will see you guys back in just a few minutes for the live trading session there for the first hour to hour and a half of the day. If you're in the MLT Discord, you guys already know what to do. Just click that link when it gets dropped. If you're not in the MLT Discord and you want to join myself, Perry, and all the rest of the MLT team in there, there is a link in the description below. Be happy to have you guys in there. But thank you guys so much for your time this morning, and I will see you guys back in just a few minutes.